Welcome to the Caregiver Relief Podcast, where we explore stories, strategies, and solutions that empower caregivers and families to live healthier and more fulfilling lives. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Keith Hersey, a wellness coach, author, and host of the Destroying Diabetes podcast. With over 20 years of experience living with type 2 diabetes and a professional background as a pharmacist, Dr. Hersey has dedicated his life to helping others prevent, control, and even reverse diabetes through mindset and lifestyle transformation. So, in this episode, Mindset to Prevent or Overcome Type 2 Diabetes, we'll discuss how your thoughts, beliefs, and habits directly influence your health outcomes and the powerful role of mindset in creating lasting change. This episode is sponsored by myvitalvault.net, your all-in-one life organizer for aging adults and caregivers. It's designed to help you securely store your essential legal, medical, and emergency information in one easy-to-access place. Because when a crisis hits, being prepared can make all the difference. Join our Caregiver Relief community, a warm, welcoming space where you can connect with other caregivers, ask questions, share stories, and find support from people who truly understand. Visit community.caregiverrelief.com to join now, because caregiving is one of the hardest and most meaningful things you'll ever do, and no one should have to do it alone. And if this episode speaks to you, please take a moment to like, share, or comment. Every click helps us reach more caregivers who need encouragement, resources, and hope. So let's dive in and discover how to take control of your health one thought at a time. Dr. Hersey, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be with us and share your information. Before we dive in, could you share a little bit about your personal journey with type 2 diabetes and what inspired your mission to help others transform their mindset?
Oh, thank you so much, Diane. Thank you for the invitation to be on your podcast. My journey, it started actually maybe about 20 years ago. I had just became a pharmacist, and I went to one of my first big pharmacy conventions.
Uh-huh.
And then we were having a break between meetings, and you go down with where the vendors areas are, and everybody has their materials or things what they're trying to
They're
push.
tchotchkes they're giving away
Oh yeah,
to
oh
sign
yeah,
up
oh
for their
yeah,
products. Yeah.
oh yeah, and then everybody had their bags and trinkets with their names on there and stuff like that. And so I went by someone that had blood glucose monitors, so they were doing free testing. So I just decided, yeah, let me just do the test and get the swag and whatever. And when I got tested, my blood sugar was like really high. And I tried to push off. I said, we just had a big lunch and maybe that's it or whatever. And the person that was doing the test was like, I don't think that it is. I said, because this is extremely high, I would recommend that you see your doctor about this or whatever. So that's the first indication that I had any kind of type 2 diabetes or anything like that. When I got back, I went to the doctor. I was diagnosed as pre-diabetic, and not that long later, it got the full diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. So that's the way I found out. And I always look back at that, and when I work with patients, especially those that are pre-diabetic, I can sympathize with how they feel, and just a lot of times just the shock of knowing that, that you, like someone says that you're pre-diabetic or you may have type 2 diabetes. So I'm always confident of that because I had a family history of type 2 diabetes. I didn't really think of myself as having that. And looking back, I could see some of the symptoms and it's easy to brush off
Yes.
because
Yes.
they're pretty similar to some other things. So that's how I got started on that. So that's like the background where I always go back to that time, even though I've had it for 20 years, but I just always go back to that time. And like I said, I was walking around just most other people, especially with pre-diabetic, now that with the American Diabetes Association, that they estimate that almost 1 in 3 adults may have pre-diabetes and not know it. So,
You were very lucky that
yeah.
you found it so early because I have people that have terrible complications because they have not addressed it and didn't know, and then all of a sudden they're in shock or they I recently had a neighbor who fell, her blood sugar was over 600. She didn't
Mhm.
even know she was diabetic and ended up in the hospital for a few days, so I really understand that. So first, I think you were very blessed that you found it as early as you did. Now, Dr. Keith, you often talk about the connection between mindset and metabolic health. Can you explain how our thoughts and attitudes actually affect blood sugar and insulin resistance?
Certainly, one of the biggest things that we've discovered in recent years, it wasn't really talked about that much when I was first diagnosed, but is the role that stress can play in insulin, especially particularly with insulin resistance.
Yeah.
As some people may be aware that one of the things that comes about when we usually are experiencing stress, that a hormone known as cortisol is elevated. And like I said, and I tell people all the time, and my clients and people like that, that was good when our ancestors lived a more active lifestyle and they had to hunt for their own food and run away from predators, having that cortisol to kick in. So they give you the increased glucose and blood sugar that you need to your organs and your extremities so that you can fight or flight out of the way. So that was great. We no longer live in that type of society. Now it's to our detriment because then we're having increased blood glucose when it's not necessary. And the bad thing about that is that increased blood glucose can harm, especially our blood vessels. It can harm different areas of our blood vessels. It can harm the biggest cause of blindness is related to type
Yeah.
2 diabetes.
Yeah.
And because the blood vessels in your eyes, they're not functioning as they should. And that usually causes a vision loss or glaucoma or things like that come about. The biggest cause of amputation is related to type 2 diabetes. Because again, like the blood vessels usually in your feet, eventually they slow the blood flow to those areas and you have decay and just a variety of different things that cause the blood flow to not get there, and eventually that the feet or lower limb may have to be amputated.
That's what it starts with the toes, then goes below the knee, then above the knee. I know this routine very well, and it's very sad for those that are unable to maintain their a good blood sugar or a proper diet. Now, after decades as a pharmacist, what shifted your perspective from medication to mindset as a primary tool for healing?
That, and as I said, that though no longer practice pharmacy, but I've had to work with people face to face for over 20 years. And because of my own medical condition, I've always had a soft spot for fellow diabetics. And when I work with them, and I noticed working with people that, people, they, and why the medication certainly has its place, especially if you're in a condition where your type 2 diabetes is uncontrolled. But a lot of times what the people that were most successful were just focusing on just having a better mindset. Because usually if you have a more positive mindset, to try to encourage them to use strategies that will lower stress. Is a lot of times it's just having the proper mindset. A lot of people feel like once they get diagnosed that it's with doomsday, they're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to live like I used to. I'm not going to be able to eat anything, and I'm not going to just be able to enjoy it. And then a lot of times people in the past have seen they may have had loved ones that had it, and they've seen all of the detrimental sides of it, the loss of vision, the loss of limbs, the kidney failure, heart disease, everything that could go along with it if it's not controlled. And they think automatically that they're going to be the similar fate. And but so to be able to to be able to have control of your health condition, it's very important just to get like the first thing to operate is, like I said, like just your strategy, having a positive attitude, having just that you have this condition, but you can go forward and you can live your life. And just in the belief in that at the beginning, if you believe that, then you're going to be more compliant with your medication. You're going to be more open to lifestyle changes that you would need. Just the biggest thing is with your diet is going to be the biggest thing. Being able to incorporate movement into like your lifestyle, especially if your lifestyle is pretty sedentary beforehand, just being open to those things, being open to things such as meditation to help relax and relieve like stress, and finding things to relieve stress. And one of the biggest things that's more and more appreciated now is the role of sleep. If
Yes.
the studies now find that if you're getting usually like less than 6 hours of sleep, that again, that your body believes is under stress. So all of the hormones that you don't need activate, such as cortisol, all your inflammatory proceed it builds up as well, and because of the increase in cortisol and other hormones, incorporating a good sleep strategy would be key as well. And that's one of the things I work with clients too, is just trying to get sleep, just because it just helps so much. It helps reduce inflammation. It's Sleep is really ideal as far as like your body to detox and cleanse itself. So getting plenty of sleep to be able to do that, to let your body reset every night so that you start at a good place in the morning and you wake up, that you don't wake up with extremely high or extremely low blood sugar one way or the other, that you're ready to go about your day. It's everything. So that I found working on those things even more. The medications are a tool, but the biggest thing that's going to have the biggest imprint and that can go work with anybody, whether that you're on 5 or 6 medications, or if you're just on one or not on one at all, it's just focusing on those things, focusing on, like I said, with reducing stress, getting a good amount of sleep, increasing movement, and then also the important, just making some changes in your diet as well.
Keith, I really, really have found that the healthcare medical delivery system doesn't really follow up with good education on diabetes. I know, here's a perfect example. A few years ago, my sister-in-law comes home and she's got this new prescription and it's for metformin. And I said, "Oh, did they tell you you're diabetic?" She goes, "No." And then she runs to my son, my brother, and says, "Diane's saying that I'm diabetic. You are if you're taking this, or you're going
Mhm.
pre-diabetic." And she was all upset. The doctor didn't tell her, or if they did, she didn't hear it. And
Yeah.
that's a denial thing. But I just recently had a neighbor here who passed out, ended up in the hospital. Do you know, they didn't talk to her about checking her blood sugars. They didn't talk to her about nutrition or refer to a diabetic class or a nutritionist. And that's upsetting. That's why I'm so glad that you have a podcast where people can come and listen and learn and get educated about this disease, because our healthcare system just is not managing it well. And it's sad. Of course, it comes down to dollars and cents. And if Medicare or whatever insurance you have doesn't pay for it, then you're not going to get it. That's why I think it's so important for people like you to spread I want to spread the word that, hey, if you got diabetes, this is a really good place to find the information you need. So now, many people believe diabetes is purely genetic or inevitable. And how do you help clients reframe that belief?
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, eh, while there is a role that genetics can play on it, it is if you do have a family history, it's not that you're going to inevitably get it, or you may not have a family history and you can still get type 2 diabetes. Especially today, I think that unfortunately, a lot of our food system
Yes.
aids into type 2 diabetes, whether you have a family history or not. Unfortunately, we have so much of our food now that's being ultra processed,
Yep.
having all sorts of things that we don't need added
Exactly.
to it just to have the product to be able to stay on the shelf longer, but it's harmful to our health.
Yep.
Yeah.
The government involvement in our diets is just horrendous. They never get anything. I was born in 1953, and when I in the 60s, my grandfather, my dad's father, had a stroke, and we all of a sudden started to eat very low sodium. We never put salt on anything. And we didn't live with grandma and grandpa, but we were there a lot. So there was no
Mm,
salt on everything. The government at that time deemed that fat was the enemy of our diets. So
mm,
they told the rest of the world, the food industry, you've got to stop putting fat in the products. So to make food palatable, what do? But they replaced it with sugar.
yeah.
When I think like I'm from Pittsburgh, when I think a teaspoon of or a tablespoon of ketchup has 4 teaspoons of sugar in it, you go, Lord have mercy. But that's what happened. In fact, I will tell you, when my mom passed when I was 18, I was going through her papers and clothes and stuff. And I found my prescription for formula that they gave me when I was an infant. And in those days, they were pushing formula versus breastfeeding and stuff.
Mm,
And my formula was milk, whole milk, 2 tablespoons of Karo syrup,
mm,
and a dropper full of multivitamins, infant vitamins
mm.
that they gave us. Can you imagine? It's no wonder we have this craving for sugar in our diets, and it's really caused we have an epidemic. Our children, they're not getting exercise and they're not eating right because of all the ultra processed foods.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and as sure as you're aware of being working in nursing, that we have, unfortunately, our health system is just become just that, just the treatment of disease more than focus on like prevention or just
Exactly.
remediating the chronic conditions and stuff. Like I said, that I would love if everybody, especially any person that's from pre-diabetic, type 2 diabetes, would have, besides a primary care physician, if they would have full access to a nutritionist. That
Yes.
would be just amazing because you would get so much better results with working with a nutrition. A lot of times people want to do the right thing, but a lot of times when I work with
Uh,
people, they just don't know how because education is just more to treating symptoms than relieving the condition. If you're someone that really want to get control of your type 2 diabetes, or if you're pre-diabetic and don't want to fall into type 2 diabetes, really the centerpiece would have to be like making adjustments in your diet. Like someone told me a long time ago, you can't out exercise a bad diet.
yeah.
You can't.
That's a good point. You can't
Yeah,
out exercise a bad diet. Amen.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so usually, like I said, if I usually tell people like if they don't feel like they can incorporate all with the 4 things that I say, I say, if you just do one thing, if you don't do anything else, If you focus on your diet, that would be the biggest thing. Ideally, I would like you for to do all four. I'd like you to incorporate movement. I'd like you to have stress reduction. I'd like you to focus on getting good quality sleep. But if you have one thing that you had to do, and the thing that would probably have the biggest effect would be just the diet. And when I say like diet, it doesn't necessarily mean so much of calorie counting. And like I said, fats have gotten a bad name. Now there's things that are good fats, and then there's bad fats. The ultra processed, saturated, highly saturated fats, those are not any good for you. But there's plenty of fats that are good for you and actually are needed for satiety. A lot of times people overeat because they tend to not feel full, and that so much of our food now is filled with just ultra processed things that actually make us more hungry and doesn't satisfy us than having like good quality. If you do eat meat, good quality meats, try to get stuff that's not full of all the hormones ingested, which they do so much, unfortunately, with beef and chicken, especially. Try to get, like I always tell people too, like when they talk about planning meals and stuff like that, I said the closer you can get to natural is the
Yeah.
better. And I know some things you can't
Wonderful.
really think or whatever, but the closer you get to that the better that you are. The closer that you get to like what the food is originally made, and the less that the food is made in a factory, the more that is grown or made naturally closer to nature. Those are the foods that you need to concentrate on eating. And that's why I said, so like having a thing of having like good quality, clean meats and vegetables closer to the source, like getting raw vegetables, raw fruits are better than thing usually like that first, and then frozen actually second, because that's actually closer to the thing. The cans is like the last resort.
Last one.
But if you do the cans, you still can wash or rinse them off. Try to, because they're packed with so much sodium to keep them preserved. That's the biggest thing. The downfalls of those things is that they're packed with so much other stuff in there to keep them on the shelf a
Yeah.
long time. If you have to have that, just make sure to wash and thoroughly
Rinse it out.
boil or rinse out, or if you boil or steam, just make sure that those are probably the best ways to prepare stuff like that.
Yeah. What would you say, Dr. Keith, are some of the most common mental barriers or self-sabotaging thoughts that keep people from improving their health?
I think the biggest thing, and I talked about a little bit earlier, is that people when the belief when they have type 2 diabetes is that, oh, that means I can't have anything anymore, or I can't have sweets, or I'm so limited, all I'll be eating is like rabbit food.
Yeah.
And then people just feel like that's not something that they will be able to do. And the thing is that I would say like it's all in like proportion. Like I said, if you're just eating stuff that's totally bad, if you could get it to 50-50, that would be dang. And I say like most people, I say like the 80-20 thing to me is, what I use. And a lot of people find that sustainable. 80, really be diligent in those areas of the food. What I talked about, try to
Mhm.
incorporate as many fruits and vegetables, lean meats as you can. And then the 20% you can, if you wanted to get like a slice of cake or a bowl of ice cream or something like that, then that's staying within measure. Like I said, the closer you can get 80-10, or if you can go above that, some people can go above that. Some people can be 90-10, 95-5. I say go
Yeah.
for it if you can do that. But 80-20 works for me. But
Yeah.
I think that's probably like the minimum sustainability. And I think that's probably like the biggest myth. And then the second biggest myth is that people believe that there's nothing that they can do, that it's going to get worse, and they're going to go down this path of losing limbs, losing eyesight. That is inevitable. That's going to happen, and that nothing could be furthest from the truth. If you're just really diligent and working with your diet and these other aspects, some people are able to they're able to lose weight. They're able to build up muscle mass so that you have less body fat, especially in the abdomen area where that's the most harmful. You can do that, and I've had some people to reduce their medication. Some people, even I've even had a couple of people to get off of their medications altogether because they were able to restore their body into a more state where it's supposed to be at, as far as processing glucose in your body, maintaining stable blood sugar levels, being able to maintain, like I said, like a healthier lifestyle with food and movement and stress relief and sleep. It's really up to you. It's like really up to your mindset and implementing the tools. The tools are out there
Yeah.
to be able to be in control with this condition. Now, you always have to be in mind that you do have this condition, and if you don't monitor and take care of it, it can get worse. But like I said, you can get worse to the end point, which we don't want to happen, or it can get to the point where you have no, you have it, but you have no symptoms. You're
Yeah.
not on any medications. You're managing just fine.
I'm gonna have another myth I'm gonna add to it that you can if you're on medication, you can overeat when you want and just take extra medication.
Yeah.
I did home care, and I can tell
Yes.
you, I can't tell you how many diabetics, "Oh, I'll just take some extra insulin if I eat this." And it's like, "No."
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've heard that people try to break the mold, I said, try to beat the system, and it doesn't work that way. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's really tough. But yeah, I get a giggle because we try, everybody tries to beat
Yeah.
the system, but you
Yeah.
can't. Stress does play a huge role in our blood sugar management. What are your favorite strategies for helping people manage stress without feeling deprived or overwhelmed?
My biggest thing is just giving yourself time for your body to relax, to restore itself. And just things like just using the mindfulness techniques, just being able to be mindful when you have stress and acknowledge it, and just developing the tools to help relieve it. I think just having a space or creating a space for yourself where you can relax. I think some people say there's meditation, prayer, using those things to just steady your mind, empty your mind of the stressful thoughts. Just give yourself like place if you can give yourself even 5 minutes of peace, that can go a long way to reshaping like your mindset. Our bodies is that art is it's amazing. And in what our bodies can take and what our bodies can withstand is amazing. And the things is that your brain is malleable. I mean,
Yes.
you can, just like people believe in negative things and negative attitudes and they get fermented, you can actually replace them with positive things.
Yes.
You can build those neurons and networks to help with positive energy, just as much as people have built into themselves, like, I can't do this, or I can't do that, or have a negative mind. You can build it the other
Yeah.
way as well. I think that's to be successful, especially with type 2 diabetes. I think changing that mindset, that's why so much of my focus is on mindset,
Yes.
because that kind of everything else goes along with. Like, if you have the mindset, then it's like I said, it's easier to implement the changes that you need in diet and movement and sleep
Yeah.
as well.
One of the hardest things for a lot of people now, I had an Irish mom. She made everything homemade from scratch. I love to cook, I love to bake. I was blessed that I always had fresh fruit and vegetables to me, but it was the cookies, the cakes, the candies, the homemade bread that were my weakness, and it was a big and people don't understand just making simple little changes like instead of a glass of orange juice, have a whole orange. Yeah, and taking that juices really will spike up your sugars, and people don't understand that the fiber in the fruit actually slows the release of the sugar into your body, and it may not make it spike, like you would if you just had a glass of juice. And I think even just making one small change like that in the beginning is really important, but it's hard for people to, first of all, many of them don't realize it and know. And so when they hear that, I hope somebody hears it and says, "Oh, I could have a piece of fruit versus juice every day." But some people have a hard time giving up their juice. I have diabetics that have a half a glass of juice and they add water to it, or whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Some take it with Metamucil afterwards, so this they have some fiber going through their body to slow
Yeah.
the glycemic index down. Can you share one or two real life success stories that illustrate how a mindset transformation led to diabetes reversal or better control?
I had someone that I worked with, they did have a family history of type 2 diabetes. They were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and they had it for a few years, and, by the time I seen them, their medication list was getting longer and longer.
Yeah.
Their A1C was double digits when I started working with them, and they were afraid that they were going on the path of what they seen like some relatives in the past, I said, that have limited eyesight through glaucoma, and they've had issues with their feet because of nerve damage that's happened because of neuropathy over years and stuff like that, and had issues walking. And so they were afraid. They were like, and the medications are costly. And the thing now is that a lot of the newer medications that are on the market now are really expensive.
The oh, what are
Newer like
Ozempic and
the
Wegovy.
GLP-1s and
Yes, they're making a huge impact, but they're so expensive.
yeah,
And some of those you have to be on for the rest of your life because
mm,
just like every other weight loss program that people go on, I'm seeing that people that I know several people now that stopped taking it because they couldn't afford it anymore and then gained all the weight back and more because
mhm,
they didn't learn lifestyle changes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And it's the same with any diet. You go on these crazy diets and you're not learning. That's why Weight Watchers is probably the best diet to be on because it's realistic. It teaches you how to eat right.
yeah,
Mm, and that helps for a lot of people, but yeah, these weight loss drugs are super expensive, and I'm hoping that this is gonna change with Bobby Kennedy and Junior in as far as how we approach diabetes and stuff like that. They're pushing a healthier we're gonna have education on nutrition even in because doctors don't
yeah,
get
yeah,
any education on nutrition. So that's, I guess, why they fail us as far as knowing what to eat and doctors can be some of the worst the worst. They have terrible schedules and they eat poorly. A lot of them smoke, and all of those things are detrimental to their health. I know I was recently diagnosed as pre-diabetic and I've lost 50 pounds, not doing any medicine. I don't want anything that's going to make me feel nauseated. Well, I get
yeah,
migraines and I experience terrible nausea and vomiting, so I will not take those. So I just following a very strict diet.
yeah.
And when you say about mindset, the lifestyle changes that have to be made are really important. What role does community and accountability play in maintaining lifestyle changes for the long run?
Okay, yeah, definitely like having a support system that you're going to be more successful. Anybody that usually I work with, I encourage them to have their family involved in as much as they can, just as a support and just accountability. And then also some people in an area we have like group sessions, which I try to do to get other people that are type 2 diabetics and pre-diabetics, and people who can meet as a group and hope we all know what we're experiencing. And sometimes you may not feel comfortable going to the doctor or even like a loved one that doesn't have that condition, and they may not feel like they're sympathetic toward what you're going through. And just finding those networks, just having that support is a key. If you have a spouse or significant other, especially if they're do more of the meal planning and meal prep, it's crucial to have them involved in it because even if they you're making the changes to eat healthy or whatever. If they don't have those conditions and don't want to do it, you still need them to help you and prepare you, even though I feel like everyone could benefit from it, whether you have type
Oh,
2
yeah.
diabetes or not. Yeah.
100%.
But if they don't want to go that, they have to realize the importance of you to make these changes for yourself, to be able you to be on a path to a healthier lifestyle, to have prevent pre-diabetes and to developing type 2 diabetes or type 2 diabetes getting worsening. That's just a crucial factor. And just having that encouragement, because it's hard. We're surrounded with just all sorts of bad temptations out there, and it's hard to dang all of it because we're literally blitzed from it the time that we go up to the time we go to bed nonstop, and it's very tempting. And as we said earlier, to everything gets loaded with sugar to make it said to make it taste good, and some products are made that to get you to become addicted to them.
And the other thing we have, the American portions are way out of control.
Yeah.
When a horse or a bear could eat some of the platters that are put
Yeah.
before us, and
Yeah.
the absurdity of it. One of the things I was hearing the other day is the new trend is smaller portions. I'm thinking, what took so long to get here? We have a country of abundance, but we also have a country of children that don't get proper nutrition. We have seniors not getting proper nutrition.
Yeah.
So we need to cut back on certain things. But it is a mindset. I'll tell you a story. We have diabetes in my family, so I've always been conscious of it, but still
Mm.
just baked and cooked and stuff all the time. But I always made homemade everything. It started from scratch. I even made TV dinners. Like, we didn't eat TV dinners. Like, my sons never had a TV dinner. I tried to get away from the highly processed food.
Yeah.
And I would freeze. I learned this from my mom. I would freeze all these dinners. Like Thanksgiving, afterwards, I'd make a bunch of TV dinners with it. Or if I made a meatloaf, I made an extra one, and I would make these TV dinners with stuff. And it's funny, my oldest son, when he was 16, was working at a grocery store, and he came home one day and said to me, "Mom, I can't believe the junk people buy to eat." And I'm like, "Oh my God, aren't you?" But listen, we had chips, we had cookies, we had candy. My kids don't think that but when Jeff went to college, he actually petitioned to get a salad bar in his college because they weren't having one. I was successful with training them a little bit, but Dr. Keith, how does your Destroying Diabetes podcast and coaching work to support people on their wellness journey?
Yeah, where our focus on the podcast is just getting information about diabetes. I'm able, fortunate to get like guests that are in different fields and address how those are related to type 2 diabetes and how the management of type 2 diabetes helping them. I've had dentists on, I've had nutritionists on, I've had men's health specialists on. I've had different areas because all these areas, ophthalmologists on, just because all these different areas of type 2 diabetes can affect that, and giving good information what people can do so that you won't have to lose your vision. You can keep your teeth. You won't be have to worry about cavities and losing teeth because of uncontrolled diabetes. Just things like, say, like steps people can do as far as nutrition and things, even things with like mindset. I've had people on to address that as well, how the importance of that. And I've had people on that, or I've had one person on that he wasn't my client, but he lost 250 pounds and it's kept it
What?
off all these years, and how he's gone from being type 2 diabetic, potential heart attack, and to being like probably one of the healthiest guys I know. So
And your perspective, you change your life.
yeah, yeah. And so that, and then I have my coaching program, which I have a program that's based on the diabetes prevention program that was started in Asheville, North Carolina. The Asheville Project is based on those parameters. And like I said, I work with people that you can work through that program. I would recommend at least 12 weeks at minimum in the program to begin this. Hopefully longer if you want to see, depends on what kind of results you want to see, but at the minimum of 12 weeks. And I did, and people have the variety of where they can work. They can work directly with me. Some people, all it is, I put the tools and things in front of them and they just go online and they just go and do it. They don't really need the thing. They just need just a path. And then I have people where I meet with every week and we go through everything. We talk about everything, just guide them into like good health and that they have someone they can help hold them accountable and walk them through the steps and the pitfalls.
You're doing what is absolutely needed, and our health we have to take responsibility for our own health care. I recently took an insurance course where I learned that the government decided that the high deductibles and high copays were a way to manage care because it deters use of benefits. And so to me, then we only have the illusion of health care. And so it's coming to a time where we are also Medicare has moved to a cost sharing plan. When if you want something, if you have the money, you're going to have to pay for it. If not, what's going to happen is you'll do without, which people at the low income levels and seniors on Social Security do. That's why I think it's so important for somebody like you out there to help us along the way, because we have you're a cost effective way to address an issue that people need attention for, and they need the help and guidance that they're not going to get from our medical delivery system, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Dr. Keith, how do we find you? How can somebody with diabetes find you?
I have an email address, Hersey health at gmail.com. That email goes directly to me. I don't have anyone that answers for me. I answer every email that I get if people have questions. And also I can send you the link as well that you can put for your viewers, that like if anybody that listens to this and they want to have a discovery call, which is free, and I can sit down, we can talk about your condition and see if any of the programs that I have is a fit for you. And there's no obligation. So I will give you that link as well that you can include for your listeners. Those are probably like the biggest things. I have the Destroying Diabetes podcast that you can listen to anywhere that you can listen to podcasts, any podcast streaming service that you have. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Destroying Diabetes, where you can watch the video of the podcast. If I don't scare you off and you want to look at me and look at people, you can do that. And
That's
I
why I
noticed
don't do
that,
the
and I
videos.
realize like some people they do that. Some people have to they like seeing the visual, and then other people they just like said like any of this podcast streaming service
Yeah.
you can audio listen to our podcast called Destroying Diabetes.
Well, thank you so much for your time. To my family caregivers out there, you are the most important part of the caregiving equation. Without you, it all falls apart. So please learn to be gentle with yourself. Practice self care every day. Practice eating healthy every day, because you are worth it.